Summer 2024. Violent anti-immigration protests erupt across the country. A year later, and Britain is again grappling with a wave of similar fury. Hundreds of angry locals and hard-right activists have been taking to the streets and protesting outside asylum hotels in scenes that threaten widespread unrest. Ireland too is experiencing a similar surge in anti-immigration violence. But why is this happening again? What makes the protests this year different? And who are the hard-right players driving them?
I say, send them home! Send them home!
The latest series of protests ignited in Epping in July 2025.
There have been days of anti-migrant protests in the UK after an asylum seeker was charged with sexually assaulting a teenage girl.
Hundreds of protesters gathered outside the town's Bell Hotel, where he had been housed alongside other migrants. The demonstration became violent as some of the protesters brawled with police and counterprotesters, leading to several arrests.
Epping was the first protest really to catch light, and then subsequently led to protests taking place around other migrant hotels around the country.
Send them back! Send them back!
There have been these cases of asylum seekers committing crimes, not a lot of them, but they've been very well publicized, and there's been a whole right-wing machine ready to capitalize on it, to post about it online and to attract protests.
There's a simmering resentment amongst society that illegal immigration is too high now and that the government is failing to get a handle on it. The migrant hotels themselves are the kind of physical embodiment within communities that people can see.
The fact that migrants are housed in hotels is kind of a gift to the far right, because it seems like they're being given a kind of luxury treatment, as if they're on holiday. When in reality, if you're a migrant and you're housed in one of these hotels, you don't have a lot of freedom, you don't have a kitchen. It's not an ideal place to live full time, but then it appears as if migrants are getting something ordinary citizens are not getting. So it really taps into that existing resentment people already have for migrants.
Anti-immigration protests have also been taking place in Ireland and Northern Ireland. A wave of violence swept through the town of Ballymena in June 2025 after two Romanian boys were accused of an attempted sexual assault. They deny charges.
What's happening in Ireland is similar to what's happening here, in the sense that there have been some very well publicized cases of people staying at migrant hotels who have been accused of sexual assault. And that has ignited a firestorm, partly because the far right have spent so long presenting asylum seekers as a threat, specifically to young women and girls. And in Ireland, there's been quite a few cases of migrant hotels in relatively small towns. So you have this concentrated population of people who are clearly not from the area, who are housed in one place, and that becomes a kind of magnet for anti-immigrant activism.
The protests are bringing back memories of the riots in the summer of 2024, when the country was gripped by a wave of violent rallies following the Southport killings.
Whereas the riots last year really pieced out within a fortnight, the difference here is that they've managed to sustain the momentum, not just in one place, but all over the country.
It's a mix of local concerned residents and more committed far-right activists, but the core of it really is people associated with groups like Patriotic Alternative, Tommy Robinson. There's a new party called the Homeland Party.
You need to have a constant string of protests to basically cause as much financial damage as possible on the taxpayer and as much police resources wasted as possible.
Its current members are former members of Patriotic Alternative. 3 of its members in Epping have been instrumental in coordinating a lot of the protests there.
I believe in putting our local people first, as it says here.
So the Homeland Party has been described as a fascist
you're telling
party.
me, and this
by radical leftists,
by radical leftists.
It's been their modus operandi really to try and push themselves to the forefront of these protests and position themselves as the kind of local community champions. For them, that's a very good shop window whereby more people around the country will get to know who they are. It also promotes this idea that they are community-based and promoting what they call sensible nationalism.
It's not just fringe, hard-right groups fanning the flames of the anti-immigration protests. Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has played a significant role in bringing this anger into the political mainstream.
Do I understand how people in Epping feel? You bet your life I do.
Right now, Reform UK are in a kind of enviable position because they've never been in power. So they can blame everything that happens on either the Tories or Labour. So they're in this position to feed off the resentment and outrage many people in the UK feel because the economy has been poor, there's been very little growth, wages aren't keeping up with inflation, migration appears to be out of control, or that's the kind of mainstream narrative. So Reform UK can tap into any and all of that, and they do.
The anti-immigration protests have consistently been met by counter-demonstrations from anti-racism and community solidarity groups.
Refugees are welcome here!
A common narrative pushed by right-wing activists is that these counter-protesters are not locals, but are bussed in from other places and even paid to create opposition. Several police forces have investigated these claims and have stated that they have found no evidence to support them. The 2024 riots were fueled by misinformation regarding the Southport attacker's identity, suggesting the suspect was an illegal migrant. This year, social media is again acting as a powerful amplifier for false narratives that are contributing to the unrest. Local Reform UK figures like Chairman Lee Nanalingham have been directly involved in spreading the misinformation that led to protests in places like Epping and Canary Wharf in London.
They don't necessarily need misinformation so much as sort of emotionally charged social media content. That the misinformation tends to come with how it's put into context or taken out of context.
Look at this. These boats just keep coming in. Look, there's hundreds of them.
Artificial intelligence is making the problems more complicated. These clips are all AI generated, and some have been viewed tens of thousands of times on TikTok.
It's time to come to UK!
The idea is that it's not real, but it taps into people's fantasies about what migration is and what the real motivations that the migrants themselves would never articulate, but AI can articulate for them.
Hello, welcome, and what do you bring to the UK?
We bring all the family to claim the universal credit and take homes from UK residents.
But it's not just AI-generated content that goes viral. Real footage is also having a huge impact, such as videos posted by users showing migrants arriving on beaches across Europe.
These scenes of people on small boats arriving on a Spanish tourist beach and jumping off the boat and running onto shore are really dramatic.
It's very visceral and emotive image to see people arriving on the shores in small boats, and it's clearly something that the government is failing to get a handle on.
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route.
I think Starmer made a mistake during the election campaign by promising to reduce net migration, because it's not something that an individual state can control. This is part of an international global system that the UK had a hand in creating but didn't create on its own and can't control on its own.
While the government has condemned the violent protests, they're also struggling to find an easy solution to the underlying issues. They're currently focusing on clearing the massive backlog and ending the costly use of hotels, aiming to address the public frustrations that fuel the unrest at their source.
I think there is enough kind of pent-up momentum and resentment that were there to be another incident such as that of the resident of the Bell Hotel who was accused of sexually assaulting a girl, I think that could again be the spark that kicks things off.